Hello guys, I hope you're all well. Can you see what I'm wearing today? Yeah, it's a crown. So I bet by looking at this you can guess what this story today that's from the Bible is going to be about. Can you guess? That's right, yeah. Who wears crowns? It's kings and queens. So this story is about a king of Persia and his beautiful queen Esther. And I'm also going to be showing you how you can make one of these crowns for yourself, so that perhaps next week, if you get involved in the play that tells the story, maybe you can be wearing your king's crown if you're the king, or the queen's crown if you're Esther. To start with, how about I show you how you can make your own crown. So I've begun with a paper plate. You can get these in any supermarket or Poundland or any home bargain store, I expect. Right, what I've done is fold your paper plate in half and get yourself a pair of scissors. And then going from the middle of the plate, and you cut outwards towards the edge, but make sure you don't cut all the way to the edge. So stop when you're a couple of centimetres away from the side. Now I'm going to go back to the middle and I'm going to cut outwards again, stopping just before I get around to the edge. And one more time here, cutting almost to the outside. Now the next thing I'm going to do is open up my plate, and I'm going to do two more cuts. If you see along the line where you folded your plate in half, we're going to do two more cuts along that fold line. I bet you can already see that this is taking the shape of a perfect crown. All that has to happen next is that we're going to fold back these triangles, and of course we're going to have to get some colours to decorate our crown nicely. You see how I fold those back. Now what I might do at this point is just check to see if it fits on my head okay, because I made one earlier and it fell down over my ears. So let's have a look. Is that a good size? This one's a bit smaller. So if you find that it's a little bit too small, then you can always cut a little bit further towards the edge there, just to make it a little bit bigger for you. So I've made mine a little bit bigger here. Let's have a look, see if this fits. What do you think? Is that a crown shape? I think it'll do. Right, it's a bit boring at the moment though, isn't it? So I would like to get some colours and to decorate it. Now if you look at the paper plate, there's some very nice lines that make it quite easy to follow those lines and make some decorations. But you could do whatever you wanted in whatever colours that you wanted. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to go all the way around the outside, and the one I did earlier had lots of different colours. And I quite like drawing a circle around the middle to make it look as if I've got jewels on the top of my crown. I'm doing this one really quickly. What colour? How about red? And how about some squiggles? Now if you use lots of different colours, it really doesn't matter about how artistic you are. The more colour, the better. You really have to bend them back quite well to make them stand up. And now I have it. I've got my crown, which I think would be good for fit for a king, but I like this one better. I've made it more beautiful, and this one I think would be perfect for Queen Esther. The story you're going to hear about today is about Queen Esther. Now, Esther's story is so important that she actually has a whole book in the Bible named after her. And in this story, we learn about how God takes charge in quite a difficult situation to protect his special people, the Jewish nation, from being destroyed. Now, Queen Esther, you'd think that she would be able to do whatever she wanted, but in fact, she was only allowed to go and see her king, her husband, if he'd invited her. Now, unfortunately, Esther's parents died when she was quite young, so before she became queen, she was looked after by a cousin of hers called Mordecai. And he was a man who, once upon a time, managed to uncover a plot to murder the king. And before that could happen, he managed to stop those people by telling the king about the plan that they had to kill him. And this was such a big event that the king made sure that this story was recorded in the official records so that it would be written down that Mordecai had stepped forward and protected the king from being murdered. This story really gets going when a man called Haman comes on the scene. Now, this king of Persia, Esther's husband, he quite liked Haman, and he told all the people in their city and in their area that they had to bow down every time they saw Haman. But Mordecai, do you remember that's Esther's cousin? He refused to bow down when Haman was walking around, and this made Haman very angry, that he felt that he wasn't getting the respect that he deserved, and he decided that he wanted to destroy Mordecai. And it wasn't even enough to get revenge on just Mordecai. He decided that he was going to kill and make sure he destroyed all of Mordecai's people. Now, Haman was quite close to the king, and he started telling the king all sorts of stories about what a troublesome people the Jews in that area were, and he convinced the king to make a new law that said that the Jewish people could be killed. Mordecai heard about this plan that the king had to allow the Jewish people to be killed, and he knew that he had to do something to save his people. So he went to Esther for help, and he asked Esther if she could use her influence with her husband the king to try to help his people and her people. But do you remember that Queen Esther actually wasn't allowed to go and approach the king without being invited? So she had to make a very big decision. Esther decided that she would approach the king and ask him for help to save her people. Now, this would have been a really frightening thing for Esther to do, because she knew that by approaching the king to speak to him, she would have been breaking the rules, and that would have been risking her life. She could have got into big trouble, but she did it anyway, and she was blessed that day, because when she did approach her husband the king, he was happy to listen to what she had to say. So the king asked Esther what it was that she wanted. Now, Esther had gone into this with a plan, and she told her husband that she would like him to hold a party and invite Haman, the man who plotted to destroy the Jewish people, along to this party too. And the king did so straight away. He organised a party for the very next day. And that night, when he was sleeping, trying to sleep anyway, he had little difficulty in falling asleep. So he asked his servants to come to him and to read all the old records about his kingdom. And as he was listening to these stories, he was reminded of the time when Mordecai had uncovered the plot to kill him. So this is really God's hand in the story here. We can see it working, because just at the right time, this king was reminded of all the good things that Mordecai, who was a Jew, remember he's Esther's cousin, had done to help him. Haman was expecting the king to honour him at this party, but in fact the king wanted to honour Mordecai for the good things he'd done in protecting him from the plot to murder him. So during this party, it really became clear to the king that Mordecai was the good guy and on his side, and Haman was somebody that needed to be punished. So he ordered that Haman be hung on the gallows that very day. And Esther had the opportunity to talk to her husband and ask him if there was anything he could do to help save her people. And he introduced a new law that said that the Jewish people were free to protect themselves, and this kept them safe. Now, it's quite a long and complicated story, isn't it? But I know that next week you're going to have a chance to get to understand this story a little bit more deeply by playing all your individual parts yourselves. So I hope you've all got your crowns ready, all of you kings and queens, and I'll see you then.